Let's keep it going. And let's keep it going with maybe, again, a team that is just fascinating in this division, and that's the Florida Gators. Their over-under win total, how about this? In the Betfred Sportsbook, 5.5 wins for Florida. I don't have the time to research it all. That's got to be the lowest over-under win total, maybe in the history, like in the history of Florida football, right? I mean, can you name a year where they came in and we were projecting them to go 5-7, maybe 6-6? It speaks to a lot of things, and it speaks to the situation in Gainesville right now. The over, by the way, you got to bet it's minus 130, the under plus 110, meaning most of the money is coming in on the under. And let me start by saying this before we get into it. Got a lot of Florida fans that follow me, and a lot of Florida, oh, Torres, you hate Billy Napier. I don't hate Billy Napier. As a matter of fact, I actually kind of like him. I kind of respect that, he's kind of about that old school. We're going to build this organically. It's about culture. It's about accountability. I'm going to take care of my guys, this and that. And I do think that message is resonating with recruits. For those who don't follow recruiting too closely, Florida right now in the class of 2024 has the number 3 ranked recruiting class in the country. Only Georgia, only Ohio State are better, at least as I'm recording here in early July. So it's not that I don't believe in Billy Napier. I do believe he inherited a disastrous situation from Dan Mullen. It did not go well last year, and it's going to be a struggle this year. In terms of last year, listen, go back and look at the results, right? You beat Utah in week 1. That's probably the best game that Anthony Richardson played all year, when there was essentially no real tape on him going into that game. Not to take away from the Florida win, right? But they needed a goal line stand with the number 3 pick in the draft, and that was probably the best game Anthony Richardson played all year. After that, you lose to Tennessee early in the season. You lose to Kentucky at home early in the season. You lose to LSU, which is understandable. You lose to Georgia, which is understandable. You even lose to Florida State, which is understandable. But you go 6-6. You end up losing the bowl game to Oregon State and finish 6-7. And here's my thing. I don't think there's a lot of reason to believe that there should be optimism going into the 2023 season that things are significantly better. One, you just lost the number 3 pick in the NFL draft. You replaced him with a guy that, I'm sorry, I just don't believe in Graham Mertz. And I know he was better last year, but for people who don't know, Graham Mertz, former starter at Wisconsin. Remember, Wisconsin 2 years ago, they fell apart early. I think they were started the season in the top 10. They opened 1-3. And Graham Mertz, listen, I hate to put this on a college kid, but like the trajectory of the Wisconsin program was pretty much like this until he took over as quarterback. It ends up tanking. Paul Chryst gets fired. Now Luke Fickell is the head coach. In his career, Graham Mertz, these are the stats. This is what you need to know. 59% completion percentage as a starter for 3 years. Did have 19 touchdowns and 10 interceptions a year ago, but 10 touchdowns and 11 interceptions the year before. And so I just bring it up because if he's putting up those stats in the Big Ten West against Purdue and Illinois and the schools that they play there. And by the way, I know Illinois had a great defense last year. I just bring it up to say, I don't think it's going to get better when you're playing Georgia and LSU and Florida State. The rest of the offense, I will say the running back position looks solid. Montrell Johnson is back. Trevor Etienne is back. But the offensive line is going to struggle. 4 or 5 starters have been lost. I know they added a guy or 2 there, but I think the O-line is going to struggle. And then the defense, which was a fringe top 100 defense last year, has lost their top 5 tacklers off of that team. Again, I understand it's the portal world and you added a couple guys, DJ Moten from Michigan among them, but it's hard for me to see Florida being significantly better this year than they were a year ago. Don't love their talent on offense, don't love their talent on defense, but maybe most importantly, the schedule is just bananas this year, okay? So you talk about a couple bad breaks for Billy Napier. One, the Utah games were scheduled, okay? I don't know when those games were scheduled, but now you have to open the season at Utah, under the lights. It's going to be that first Thursday of the college football season on Labor Day weekend. You got to play at altitude. It's probably going to be pretty warm. I know it's, you're from Florida, so heat isn't an issue to you. But Florida actually opened in the Betfred Sportsbook as a 9-point underdog to Utah. So the odds makers do not think Florida's winning that game. You have to close the season against a Florida State team that all of a sudden is really, really, really good. And then beyond that, The schedule in season is brutal, and in the SEC is brutal. You get Tennessee at home and Kentucky on the road, all by the end of September. So by the end of September, you could legitimately be 2-3 because you got at Utah, Tennessee at home, at Kentucky. And then as the second half of the season unfolds, you got to go to LSU. You have to play also Arkansas, which I don't think will be easy. At least that game's at home. And again, Florida State to end the year. So because of it, this is a total stay away to me. I'd like to think that if this culture is going in the right direction under Billy Napier, you can get to 6 wins. But, in the out of conference, when you have Florida State at home and at Utah, they probably have the toughest out of conference schedule of anybody in college football. Then on top of that, your cross division game is at LSU. That's brutal. You get Georgia on a neutral. That's brutal. You get at Kentucky, a program that has kind of had your number the last half decade. That's not easy. I can't find 6 definitive wins to say this goes over. Again, I believe in Billy Napier. Talent isn't there right now, and we'll see what happens.